twin suns of Valara shone softly over the royal gardens. A warm silver light fell upon the crystal leaves and glowing flowers that filled the air with rich and layered scents. The world of Valara was famous across the stars for its beauty and its people's sense of smell. Every fragrance told a story, a memory, a feeling, or a promise. Princess Elira Valari walked alone through her garden that morning. Her long pale blue robe brushed against the grass that shimmered like glass threads. She often came here to think, to escape from the noise of the court and the endless meetings about trade and politics. Her attendants followed at a distance, whispering softly. Elira preferred silence. The world of sense around her always spoke louder than words. But that day, something changed. As she passed beneath the tall crystal trees, a strange scent reached her, faint, almost lost among the sweet perfume of the flowers. It was not from any Valari plant. It was different, simple, dry, and yet warm. It smelled like dust after rain, like smoke after fire, like something from long ago. Elira stopped walking. Her attendants looked at her in confusion. "Your Grace? Is something wrong?" one of them asked. But the princess didn't answer. She froze where she stood, her gaze distant. That scent. It pulled a memory from deep inside her, from years she had tried to forget. The memory of fire, of fear, and of a voice that spoke gently to calm her when everything around her was falling apart. Her fingers trembled as she whispered, "That smell." "It's him." The attendants exchanged looks. None of them understood. "Who, Your Grace?" But Elira didn't reply. Her mind was no longer in the garden. It was far away, years back in the black void of space where a young princess had once faced death. Years ago, the Valari royal convoy had been attacked in deep space by pirate ships. The explosion tore through the royal cruiser. Elira, then just 16, had been trapped inside the wreckage with her guards dying around her. The Valari rescue fleets were too far away. Then came a message, a human patrol ship answering their distress call. Humans were new to the galactic network at that time. Few trusted them and many called them reckless, yet the small human vessel came anyway, ignoring the danger. Elira remembered the chaos, smoke filling her lungs, the floor shaking, the alarms screaming. And then through the darkness she saw a tall figure in a black suit of armor. His face was hidden behind a clear helmet. The red light of fire reflected on his visor. He had spoken to her in a calm voice. She didn't understand all his words, but she remembered the tone, in strong, steady, kind. He lifted her up, carried her through the burning corridor, and when the ceiling fell, he turned his body to shield her. The sound of metal, the weight, the pain, and then nothing but silence. When she awoke later, she was in a Valari medical ship. The humans were gone. The report said the human who saved her was Sergeant Daniel Hayes, of the Earth Defense Force. He had been injured but survived. Elira had wanted to meet him again, to thank him, but war and politics pulled her life in another direction. The Empire's council told her to forget the incident, to focus on her royal duties, yet she never forgot. And now, years later, the same scent had returned to her garden. She turned quickly to her attendants. "Bring me the head of security," she said. The attendants bowed and hurried away. Within minutes, a tall guard captain arrived. His silver armor gleamed and he bowed deeply. "Your Grace." Elira looked at him with sharp eyes. "Who entered the royal gardens today?" "No one, Princess," the captain replied. "Only your attendants and the maintenance drones. No visitors have been allowed near the palace," she frowned. "Search the outer paths. There's someone nearby." "I can smell it," the captain blinked in confusion. "Smell, Your Grace?" Elira sighed softly. Few people understood her gift. The Valari royal line was famous for its heightened sense of scent. They could detect a person's presence, even emotion, from the faintest fragrance. She turned back to the breeze. The scent was already fading, carried away by the shifting winds. But the feeling it brought stayed in her chest. A quiet ache, half sorrow, half hope. That night the palace was filled with music and voices. Elira stood on the high balcony watching the stars. The city of Valara Prime glittered below like a field of jewels. She held a small glass pendant in her hand. Inside was a piece of burned metal, the last piece of the ship that had rescued her years ago. It was all she had kept from that day. She whispered to the stars, "Where are you now, human?" Far away, beyond the edge of the Valari system, another ship drifted through space. It was a human vessel, UHS Trident, Earth's diplomatic escort ship. Its crew was preparing for a new mission, a journey to the Valari homeworld. Inside the ship, Captain Daniel Hayes sat in his cabin reading through reports. His face had a few old scars, the kind that told stories of past battles. He had grown older, but his eyes still held that calm determination. His crew called him Steelheart, not because he was cold, but because nothing seemed to shake him. As he set down the report, a small holophoto on his desk caught his eye, an old mission file showing the wreck of the Valari Royal Cruiser. The report marked it as Operation Starfall Rescue. Daniel remembered the mission well. The young alien girl crying in the fire, the chaos, the silence after the explosion. He had never learned what became of her. He smiled faintly. "I wonder if she made it," he murmured. The intercom buzzed. "Captain, briefing in 5 minutes. We'll reach Valari space tomorrow." Daniel nodded. "On my way." He stood, adjusted his uniform, and left the room. The faint scent of his cologne, something simple from Earth made of wood and spice, lingered in the air. Back on Valara, Princess Alira couldn't sleep. The strange scent haunted her still. It came and went with the night wind, teasing her senses. She called her intelligence officer, a calm and quiet woman named Saren. "Saren," Alira said softly, "I want you to look into a name." "A human name, Daniel Hayes." Saren tilted her head. "A human? May I ask why, Your Grace?" "Because he once saved my life," Alira replied. "And because I think he may be here, or coming soon." Saren hesitated but bowed. "I will find what I can, Princess." When she left, Alira walked again to the garden balcony. The scent was gone now. Only the flower's perfume filled the night air, but she felt it in her heart, that something had changed. The past was moving again. She closed her eyes and whispered, "The fragrance that once meant hope has returned." Above her, the stars shimmered, and far away, a human warship crossed the void toward Valara, carrying the man whose scent still lingered in her memory. The royal halls of Valara were bright that morning, but Princess Alira's heart felt heavy. The strange scent she had smelled in the garden would not leave her mind. It followed her through the day like a whisper from another world. Her advisors filled the chamber with reports about trade, fleets, and upcoming diplomatic meetings with Earth. Yet Alira barely heard them. Her eyes kept drifting to the wide glass windows, where the silver clouds moved slowly across the sky. Finally, she raised her hand. "Enough, continue without me." Her advisors bowed, confused but silent. The princess turned and walked out, her long robe trailing behind her like flowing light. In the quiet of her private chamber, she touched the pendant around her neck, the small piece of scorched metal from the old wreck. The edges were sharp and rough, but it felt warm against her fingers. She whispered softly, "Sergeant Daniel Hayes." The name itself brought back the images she had tried to forget. The sound of alarms, the smell of smoke, the heat of fire pressing against her face. And slowly, as if the memory had been waiting for this moment, it began to return in full. Flashback. Years ago, the Royal Cruiser, Eclipsera, moved through deep space, carrying the Valari princess and her guard fleet. It was meant to be a peaceful journey, a visit to a distant colony. But in the cold dark beyond the last beacon, ships appeared. Pirate ships, old, rusted, but armed with heavy weapons. They attacked without warning. Energy bolts struck the Valari escort ships, breaking their defense line. The cruiser shook violently as explosions tore through its hull. Inside, chaos spread. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled the corridors. Princess Alira ran through the halls with her guards. She could hear their voices shouting, "To the escape pods! Move!" But the blast doors closed behind them. The way was blocked. The lights went out. Only the red glow of emergency lamps remained. Alira coughed, her lungs burning. "The pods. Where are they?" She cried. One of her guards fell to his knees, his armor blackened by fire. "We can't reach them, Princess," he gasped. "The section's sealed." She grabbed his arm, trying to pull him up, but the floor tilted beneath them. The ship was breaking apart. For a moment, she thought it was over. The world spun. The sound of tearing metal filled her ears, and then silence. When Alira opened her eyes, she was lying among debris. Sparks danced across the floor. The air smelled of burning wires and blood. Her guards were gone. She was alone. Her heart raced as she crawled forward. She could hear distant gunfire. The pirates were boarding the ship. Then through the smoke, a strange voice came from her communicator, calm, firm, and unfamiliar. "This is human patrol vessel Orion. We've received your distress signal. Hold on, we're coming," Illyra blinked. "Humans?" she whispered. Her people had only recently met the humans, strange, bold creatures from a distant world. Most Valari still didn't trust them, but at that moment she didn't care. She just wanted to live. The pirates reached the main deck first. Their heavy boots echoed through the corridors as they tore through doors, searching for valuables and hostages. Illyra hid behind a broken console, clutching her pendant and praying silently. Then the sound changed, the deep rumble of engines, the hiss of airlocks opening, and then gunfire again. But this time, it wasn't pirates firing. A squad of human marines stormed the ship, dark armor, glowing visors, weapons that fired blue light. They moved fast, clearing the rooms one by one. Among them was Sergeant Daniel Hayes. He was not the tallest, but he carried himself with quiet control. He gave short orders to his team, his voice steady even in chaos. "Check life signs. Prioritize survivors," he said. When he turned the corner and saw her and the young alien girl with silver skin and bright lavender eyes, and he paused only for a second before stepping forward. Okay," he said through his helmet speaker. "We're here to get you out." Illyra tried to stand, but her leg hurt. "You human?" she whispered. He nodded. "That's right. Sergeant Hayes, Earth Defense Force, can you walk?" I think so." He lifted her arm over his shoulder and helped her move. The corridor shook again as another explosion hit the ship. "We have to go. Follow me." They moved through broken hallways filled with smoke and sparks. The smell was strong. Oil, metal, and that strange human scent she would never forget. She noticed it even through the smoke, warm and earthy like the ground after rain. It made her feel calm, though she didn't know why. Illyra looked up at him as he guided her forward. His armor was scratched and burned. Despite the danger, his movements were steady and sure. "Why did you come?" she asked weakly. He looked back at her. "Because someone called for help." Such a simple answer, and yet it stayed with her forever. They reached the last corridor, but it was blocked by fire. Daniel looked around quickly, then pulled a metal plate from the wall. "Stay close," he said. He covered her with his body and ran through the flames. The heat was unbearable. Illyra felt the world spin again as the roof fell. Something heavy hit Daniel from behind. He pushed her away and fell with a shout. "Sergeant!" she cried. He tried to rise but couldn't. The beam had pinned his leg. He looked up at her, breathing hard. "You have to go. There's a hatch just ahead. Go." She refused to move. "Not without you." But he shook his head. "Go, princess." "Don't waste the chance." Then the rest of his team arrived and lifted the beam. They carried him with them, but his armor was broken. His body burned. Illyra remembered clutching his hand as they reached the human ship. He looked at her through his cracked visor. "You'll be okay now," he said softly, and then the medics pulled him away. Back to the present. The sound of that voice still echoed in her heart. Even now, years later, she could remember his words clearly. "You'll be okay now." Illyra opened her eyes, the flashback fading like smoke. She was back in her chamber, sitting beside the window. The sky outside had turned dark. She pressed the pendant against her chest and whispered, "You saved me," and then vanished. Just then, her communicator beeped. Saren, her intelligence officer, appeared on the hologram. "Your Grace," Saren said. "I found information about the human you mentioned. Daniel Hayes." Illyra stood at once. "You found him?" "Yes, he's alive. He now serves as captain in the Earth Defense Fleet. His ship, the UHS Trident, is on its way to Valara for a diplomatic escort mission." For a moment, Illyra could not speak. The pendant slipped from her fingers. "When will they arrive?" she asked quietly. "Tomorrow morning." Illyra nodded slowly. Her heart beat faster. The scent in her garden had not been an illusion. He was truly coming. She turned toward the stars outside the window. "After all these years," she murmured. "The universe brings him back." Saren tilted her head. "Do you wish to meet him, princess?" Illyra smiled faintly. "I owe him a thank you, and perhaps a memory." When the call ended, she looked once more at the stars. They shimmered like silver eyes watching over her. The scent from the garden seemed to return for a brief moment, faint but clear. Elira closed her eyes and said softly, "Tomorrow I will see the human who changed my life." The morning sun rose over Valara like two golden flames burning in the sky. Its light shimmered on the glassy surfaces of the palace and reflected across the silver leaves of the royal gardens. The world was calm, peaceful, almost as if the universe itself had paused to wait for something. Inside the palace, the air was tense. Couriers and assistants hurried back and forth, carrying reports about the approaching human ship. The Valari fleet scanners had detected the UHS Trident, and they confirmed it was Captain Daniel Hayes aboard. Princess Elira stood by the window of the throne room, watching the distant horizon. Her lavender eyes were calm, but inside her chest her heart raced. The memory of that fateful day years ago, and the scent that had returned in the garden were alive in her mind. "The human comes today," she whispered to herself. Her attendants waited quietly. They did not dare interrupt her thoughts. The Valari princess was known for her calm control, but now she was visibly tense. She did not usually show emotion, yet anticipation clung to her like a second skin. Meanwhile, aboard the UHS Trident, Captain Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge, staring at the navigation screen. Valara Prime was finally in range. The planet's twin suns gleamed against the metallic towers of the capital city below. "Captain Hayes," said Lieutenant Ramirez, "we are cleared to enter Valari space. No hostiles detected," Daniel nodded. "Good. Prepare the ship for diplomatic arrival. I want everything smooth and professional. The Valari court can't say humans are reckless this time." He adjusted his uniform and looked out of the bridge viewport. It had been years since he rescued that young princess. He had never seen her again, yet her memory had stayed with him through all the battles and missions that followed. A soft smile crossed his face. "I wonder if she remembers me," he murmured. The Valari royal palace was alive with activity. Servants polished surfaces, guards checked ranks, and diplomats from across the galaxy whispered in corridors. Yet all of this paled compared to the quiet expectation building in the throne room. Elira stood near the grand doors. Her lavender hair shone faintly in the morning light. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. When Captain Hayes entered the room, she would see him for the first time in years. Her attendants moved aside as a messenger announced, "The human delegation has arrived." The doors opened, and Daniel walked in. Even after years, his presence was familiar, calm, strong, and somehow comforting. He wore his Earth uniform, clean and crisp, yet he carried the aura of someone who had faced battles and survived. Their eyes met. Time seemed to slow. Elira froze, as if rooted to the floor. The faint scent that had returned in the garden drifted again, carried by the air currents. It was unmistakable, warm, earthy, real. Daniel paused as well. Something about the princess seemed familiar, though she was older now, more regal. Her eyes held a soft light, but also the weight of memories. Elira stepped forward slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know you," Daniel blinked, surprised. "You remember me?" he asked. She nodded, her gaze steady. "You carried me from the fire. You saved me when no one else could." For a moment, silence filled the room. The Valari court attendants and human diplomats watched, confused. Such familiarity between the two species was unusual, almost unheard of. Daniel took a careful step forward. I only did what anyone would," he said humbly. "No," Elira replied. "Not anyone could have done what you did. That day your courage gave me hope. You showed me that even in the darkest moments someone would protect life, even if it was risky." Her words hung in the air, simple and honest. The humans in the room murmured quietly, and even some Valari officials could not hide their surprise. As the initial shock passed, Daniel's eyes softened. "I never imagined I'd see you again," he said. "I often wondered, did you make it? Did you live?" Elira's lips curved faintly in a small smile. "I did, and here I am. Thanks to you." There was a pause. Both of them looked at each other, memories of smoke, fire, and running through broken corridors flashing in their minds. They had been separated by years and by light years of space, yet the bond of that day still connected them. The Valari court finally spoke. Counselor Taylor, a tall, stern figure, stepped forward. Your Highness, you must remember the rules. Human familiarity is unusual. Public displays of recognition could cause concern among the nobles. Elira ignored the warning. This is not about politics, she said firmly. It is about life, and he saved mine. The counselor hesitated, then bowed slightly. As you wish, Princess. Later, in the quiet of a smaller audience chamber, Elira and Daniel finally had a moment alone. The room overlooked the gardens where she had first smelled the scent that reminded her of him. The twin suns cast long shadows on the polished floor. Daniel looked at her carefully. You've grown into a remarkable leader, he said. I can see why your people respect you. Elira smiled faintly. And you still carry yourself like a soldier. Calm, even in the middle of chaos. He chuckled softly. Years of experience. But the calm never comes easy. For a few moments they simply looked at each other, two lives intertwined by fate and courage. Then Elira said, Do you remember the day you saved me? Daniel nodded. I remember it well. You were brave, even scared. I just had to get you out alive. You carried me through fire, she said. Through destruction. That scent you left, it stayed with me. Even now, after all this time, I can smell it. Daniel looked surprised. You remembered that? Of course, she said. I could never forget. You were hope in the middle of despair, and now, you are here. The conversation was interrupted by a call from the palace staff. Elira's intelligence officer, Saren, spoke quietly. Princess, there is news from the fleet. Some pirate activity has been detected near the outer systems. They may interfere with the diplomatic mission. Daniel stood straight immediately. Pirates? Where exactly? Near the Western Passage, Saren replied. They are heavily armed and moving fast. Elira's eyes narrowed. The same group that attacked my convoy years ago? Saren nodded. It appears so. Daniel's jaw tightened. We'll deal with them. We can't let this affect the mission or the peace talks. Elira's gaze softened as she looked at him. I knew you would respond without hesitation. You always did. Daniel only nodded. Someone has to protect life, that day, and now. The two spent the rest of the morning discussing the strategy for the fleet. Despite the royal protocols and the formalities of diplomacy, the princess and the human captain worked side by side. Her knowledge of Valari ships and his knowledge of human tactics made them a powerful team. As they walked through the planning chamber, Elira felt a strange comfort. The years of separation melted away, leaving only the memory of trust and courage. The memory of that day, the human who had carried her through fire, the scent that had lingered in her mind. It all came together in this moment. Finally, as the briefing ended, she turned to him. Tomorrow we will face them together, just like before. Daniel smiled faintly, just like before. But this time I think we'll succeed without losing anyone. Elira nodded. Yes, together. And for the first time in years, the princess felt the calm certainty of knowing that some bonds could never be broken. Not by time, not by space, not even by the stars themselves. Outside the chamber, the twin suns glinted on the horizon. A new day was beginning. A day where past and present would meet, where memory and courage would guide two lives, a human and an alien Princess Maina back together. The Valari sky was streaked with pale gold and silver as the palace woke to another day. Princess Elira stood in her private chamber, looking over the holographic map of the outer systems. Her eyes narrowed at the cluster of blinking red signals. Pirate ships, fast-moving and heavily armed. They're back, she whispered. Her voice was calm, but inside her heart beat faster. Memories of her childhood attack returned, smoke, fire, and the human who had saved her. That same thought stirred hope. Her intelligence officer, Saren, stood beside her. The fleet report suggests they are using stolen hybrid technology. Part human, part alien. They are faster and more dangerous than before. Elira clenched her fists. Then we cannot waste time. Daniel must know. Meanwhile, aboard the UHS Trident, Captain Daniel Hayes received the alert. His hands tightened on the rail as he studied the incoming sensor data. Pirates near Valara, he said quietly. Looks like they've upgraded since the last time. Hybrid tech. That complicates things. Lieutenant Ramirez looked worried. Captain, these ships could outmaneuver our standard formations. We'll need to coordinate with the Valari fleet carefully. Daniel nodded. Agreed, prepare communication channels with Valari Command. I want their fleet ready for immediate deployment. This is not just a diplomatic visit anymore. He leaned against the viewport, staring at the glittering planet below. It had been years since he rescued a young princess from these pirates. Now fate had brought him back, not as a rescuer, but as an ally in defense. Back at the palace, Princess Aelira convened a private council with the Valari fleet commanders. "The pirates we face are the same group that attacked my convoy years ago," she explained. "They are armed with hybrid technology stolen from both human and Valari designs. We cannot underestimate them." General Taurus, an older Valari commander, raised a brow. "Your Highness, do you suggest we cooperate with the humans?" "It may be seen as favoritism." Aelira's eyes were steady. "It is not favoritism. It is strategy. That human captain, Daniel Hayes, he understands these enemies better than anyone. I trust him, and I will not ignore that trust." A murmur ran through the council. Some whispered that the princess's attachment to a human was unusual. Others worried it might create political tension. But Aelira did not waver. The fleet moved into position. The Valari warships glimmered like silver stars, perfectly aligned along the planet's orbit. The UHS Trident slipped smoothly into formation. Daniel at the helm, his calm voice issuing commands. "Adjust formation to match Valari grids. Shields at maximum. Weapons ready. Keep civilians clear of the outer sectors." Princess Aelira joined him on the communication bridge via secure channel. The distance between them was still measured in miles, but the voice in her ear made the connection feel close. "Daniel," she said, her tone quiet but firm. "I'm glad you are here. I trust your judgment." "And I trust yours," he replied. "We've done this before, haven't we?" "Yes," she said softly. "Only then you carried me through fire. Now, we carry each other." The pirates struck at dawn. Their ships moved quickly, scattering across the sector. Energy beams lanced through space, narrowly missing Valari cruisers. The hybrid weapons gave them speed and agility, making them difficult targets. "Target their lead ship," Daniel shouted. "It's the command vessel. Take it out and the others will scatter." Valari and human weapons fired together in a coordinated strike. Beams of blue and gold light tore through the darkness. Explosions sent shockwaves across nearby ships. Aelira monitored the battle, her sharp mind tracking movements and predicting attacks. She gave orders directly to the fleet commanders, weaving Valari precision with human intuition. Daniel marveled at her skill. She hasn't lost a step, he thought. Even after years, she still held the sharp instincts of a leader. In the chaos, a small group of pirate ships broke through to the Valari civilian convoys. Daniel noticed one moving dangerously close to a transport vessel. Without hesitation, he piloted the Trident to intercept. Aelira followed closely in her fleet cruiser, guiding him. "Use the solar flare field to your advantage," she instructed. "They won't see you coming." Daniel adjusted the course. The Trident slipped behind the pirates, firing with precision. The pirates panicked as their movements were blocked, and soon the convoy was safe. After the skirmish, the fleet regrouped. The pirate ships had been destroyed or fled. The Valari ships were mostly intact, and the civilians were unharmed. Daniel exhaled slowly. "That was close. Too close." Aelira's voice came through the comm again. "You were perfect. Just like before. I never doubted you." Daniel's chest tightened. He remembered the day he carried her through the flames, and now the words felt heavier, more meaningful. After the battle, Aelira and Daniel returned to the palace. The atmosphere was quieter now, the tension replaced by relief. Still, whispers spread through the court. The princess had worked closely with a human captain. Counselor Talar approached her. "Your Highness, some of the nobles are questioning your decisions. They see this closeness with the human captain as unusual. They fear it may influence Valari politics." Aelira's eyes were firm. "I saved this world today. He saved my people. That is enough for me. I do not serve whispers or fear. I serve life and justice." The counselor bowed, seeing that the princess's mind was made. He could not sway her. Later, as the sun set, Aelira walked through the palace gardens again. The air smelled of fresh flowers and evening dew. The faint trace of Daniel's human scent lingered in the breeze, reminding her of the connection between past and present. Daniel joined her quietly, his hands behind his back. He didn't speak at first, he simply walked beside her. Finally, Aelira broke the silence. "You were calm out there," she said softly. "Even when it seemed impossible, you stayed steady, just like the day you carried me from the fire." Daniel glanced at her. I only did what I had to, but seeing you again, knowing you survived, it feels like I finally finished what I started. Elira smiled faintly. You did more than finish it. You gave me hope when I had none. That day your courage saved my life. Today your courage saved thousands. For a moment they simply stood together looking at the horizon. Words were not needed. The bond forged in the fire years ago now connected them across space and time. The night grew deeper and the stars shimmered above Valara. Princess Elira and Captain Daniel Hayes walked back toward the palace. Their conversation was soft, filled with memories and understanding. Tomorrow, Elira said, we will meet the council and finalize the peace agreements. But tonight, I want a quiet moment, Daniel nodded. I understand. After all, some moments are just for remembering. And for the first time in years, the princess felt truly at ease. The human who once saved her was here. Together they had faced danger again, combining their strengths, human instinct and Valari precision. Elira realized something she had never admitted before. Courage and kindness, no matter where they came from, left a mark on life. Daniel Hayes had left that mark on hers, and it had endured across years, across planets, across every challenge. The scent of his presence lingered faintly in the air, not overpowering, but undeniable. She smiled to herself. It was a reminder that some bonds were more than memory. Some bonds were destiny, and as the stars twinkled above, the princess and the human captain knew one thing clearly. Their story was far from over. The twin suns of Valara rose slowly over the horizon, casting soft golden light across the palace and gardens. The day felt unusually still, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Princess Elira stood on the balcony looking out at the shimmering city below. The night's events, the pirate attack, the fleet coordination, and the quiet conversation with Daniel, still lingered in her mind. She could feel the tension easing now. Life had been chaotic for her since childhood. But somehow, in the human captain's presence, the world felt steady. Her lavender eyes traced the path of the fleet ships returning from their patrol. Even the humans aboard the UHS Trident had coordinated perfectly with the Valari forces. The success of the operation had reminded her of one thing: courage and wisdom, no matter where they came from, left lasting effects. And one human had changed her life forever. A soft chime echoed in her room. It was Siren, her intelligence officer. Princess, the council is ready for your audience. They will formally recognize the human captain for his contributions. Elira took a deep breath. Thank you, Siren. Prepare everything. Her attendants moved quickly, organizing documents and ensuring the chamber was perfect. Today was not just a celebration of victory. It was a recognition of bravery, trust, and the enduring connection between Valari and humans. In the council chamber, the atmosphere was electric. Valari nobles and diplomats from other systems had gathered. The air was filled with curiosity and respect. At the front, the familiar human figure of Captain Daniel Hayes stood with quiet confidence. Elira entered, moving with the grace and command that had earned her the throne. Every eye turned to the princess. Her presence filled the room with calm authority, and yet there was something more. A personal connection to the human standing beside her. She stopped at the center and addressed the council. Today we recognize a human who has not only saved me personally, but has helped protect countless lives of Valari citizens. His courage, skill, and commitment have proven that bonds between species can create strength beyond imagination. The room fell silent for a moment. Then, one by one, Valari nobles nodded in acknowledgement. Some whispered to each other about the unusual favor shown to a human, but none could ignore the undeniable truth. Without him, the results of the recent attack could have been far worse. Elira reached into a small case and held up the Star of Valara, the highest honor her people could bestow. Its silver light reflected across the chamber. Captain Daniel Hayes, she said softly, yet with clear authority, I present to you the Star of Valara. May it serve as a reminder that courage knows no boundaries, and that life is worth protecting across all stars. Daniel stepped forward and bowed his head, his voice calm but carrying pride. Your Highness, it is an honor I never expected. I only did what was right, but I am grateful that it matters to you and your people. Elira's eyes softened. It matters more than you know. And it is not just duty that makes your actions special. It is the heart behind them. For the first time, some of the skeptical nobles understood. This recognition was not merely about politics. It was about character, courage, and the bonds formed through shared struggle. Later, after the ceremony, Aelira led Daniel to the palace garden, the same place where she had first smelled the faint trace of his scent that had brought back memories. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows on the crystal grass and silver trees. Daniel walked beside her, hands behind his back, as they moved silently. The world around them was quiet except for the gentle rustling of leaves. "Do you remember this garden?" Aelira asked softly. Daniel looked around. "I remember you running through fire, not gardens," he said with a faint smile. She laughed softly, a sound like wind through leaves. "Yes, that was a long time ago, but it is here that I first remembered the scent you left. I froze when I smelled it again." Daniel's eyes softened. "You remembered that?" "I did," she said, smiling. "That scent, it carried hope. You gave me courage when I had none. That is something I will never forget." They walked in silence for a while, the memory of the past mingling with the peace of the present. Aelira stopped by a tall crystal tree, its leaves glowing faintly in the sunset. She turned to Daniel. "I wanted to thank you, not as a ruler, not as a princess, but as the person you once saved. Thank you for being there when I needed someone the most." Daniel looked into her lavender eyes, seeing the sincerity, the strength, and the quiet gratitude. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "I did what anyone would, but hearing you say it now, it means a lot." The memory of the fire, the smoke, and the danger no longer carried fear. It carried a connection that had survived years and distance. That evening, the palace held a quiet celebration. The Valari Council recognized the bravery of both human and Valari forces. Diplomats from other systems watched in awe as the two worlds found respect and friendship through courage and loyalty. Aelira and Daniel stood side by side, not as princess and captain, but as two lives linked by fate. "You have changed so much since the day you carried me from the fire," Aelira said, her voice soft. "And you have grown into a leader no one can question," Daniel replied. "I am proud to have played a small part in your journey." The words were simple, but the weight of years, distance, and memory made them profound. Later, alone in the palace garden, the air was quiet except for the soft hum of evening wind. Aelira inhaled deeply. The faint scent that had first brought back the memory lingered, a gentle reminder of courage, life, and hope. Daniel noticed her pause. "Do you still smell it?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, it reminds me of that day, of everything we survived, and of how the universe sometimes brings the right people together at the right moment." Daniel smiled faintly. "It seems the universe has a good memory." Aelira chuckled softly. "Yes, and a sense of justice." They stood there quietly, looking at the stars above, two beings from very different worlds, yet connected by trust, courage, and the bonds of memory. The galaxy was vast and full of uncertainty, but in that moment, they both understood something simple and profound. Some acts of courage leave marks that last forever, shaping destinies across worlds, and some bonds, once formed, cannot be broken, not by time, distance, or even the stars themselves. The twin suns dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. Aelira and Daniel stood together, the past and present finally aligned, ready to face the future side by side. The princess had remembered, the human had returned, and the galaxy had witnessed that courage, kindness, and trust could create hope across worlds. The fragrance of memory lingered, soft but unmistakable, and it carried a promise. The story of two lives, once separated by fire and chaos, now forever connected. The end.